Ethan thought his wife was too naive to understand business. He mocked her questions, stole her ideas, and used private conversations to climb the corporate ladder. But Coraline had been listening too, and recording everything. The man who believed he was manipulating a helpless wife was actually exposing himself piece by piece. By the time he sat across from her at that restaurant, the evidence was already in motion. The lawyers were ready, and his career was about to collapse before dessert arrived.
3 years of marriage ended with 4 words. "You are just a small town girl." Mark said it like he was commenting on the weather. He wouldn't even look at me from the doorway of our Seattle condo, tossing his coat aside. The words hung there, sharp and ugly, in the space I had spent all day perfecting. I froze. The wooden spoon in my hand hovered over the stove. The rich, wine-infused scent of the stew suddenly felt cloying. I had spent hours cooking for our anniversary. "I am sorry," I said, my voice softer than intended. "Don't react. Don't give him the fight he clearly wanted." "You heard me, Claire." He walked into the living room, eyes sweeping over the table I had set with vintage linens and a floral centerpiece. A muscle twitched in his jaw. "All this fuss. It is trying too hard. It is quaint, like some rustic farmhouse. The name Claire used to be an endearment. Now it was a weapon used to shrink me. It felt too simple, too plain for what he wanted me to be. "It is our anniversary," I said, wiping my hands on my apron. "I wanted it to be nice." "Nice?" he snorted, slumping into his armchair. He didn't offer to help or even kiss my cheek. He just scrolled through his phone, blue light washing over his face, a face grown harder with resentment this past year. "Nice does not cut it in the real world, Claire. My client dinner at the Ritz last week, that was nice. 24-ounce steaks and a wine list worth a fortune. Sarah, my boss's wife, wore this silent statement of a dress. Pure money." I knew exactly where this was going. It was a well-worn path, paved with other men's success and his own perceived failures. "I am sure the food was lovely," I said, turning back to the stove. I needed to move. "But our budget is different. Mark, and a home-cooked meal can be just as good." "It is not about the budget," he exploded. I flinched. "It is about taste." Sarah knew the difference between a vintage Burgundy and a Bordeaux. She spoke to the sommelier in French. Actual French. A dull ache bloomed in my chest. I took a slow, steadying breath. "In for 4, hold for 7, out for 8. "You never wanted me to speak French at your events, Mark. You said I was showing off." "That is because you would be faking it," he snapped, his face flushed. "Trying to be something you are not. It is embarrassing. A man does not want a wife who shows him up." A memory hit me, bright and painful. 6 months ago, a work barbecue. A colleague was struggling to explain a deal with a Montreal firm, mangling the terminology. Without thinking, I gently corrected him and translated the clause he was stuck on. The look on Mark's face, shock, humiliation, and pure fury, chilled me to the bone. The ride home was a tirade. "Who do you think you are? My backwater wife knows more than my VP? Just smile and pass the salad next time." I had tried to explain about my childhood summers in Provence, but he hadn't spoken to me for 2 days. "The stew is ready," I said, my voice flat. I was exhausted. We ate in a silence broken only by the clink of silverware. The coq au vin was perfect. He ate without a word. I watched this man I had loved in college, back when his eyes held wonder, not calculation. He used to love my quiet confidence. He cherished that I could identify every wildflower on a trail and debate art history with passion. Now, those same traits were liabilities provincial and unambitious. "How was work?" I asked, reaching for neutral ground. "A disaster," he muttered, shoving bread into his mouth. "Thompson got the promotion. My heart sank. James Thompson, married to the regional director's daughter. Since the wedding, Thompson's career had been on a rocket sled, despite being as sharp as a marble. "I am sorry, Mark, that is not fair." "Fair?" He barked a laugh. "What is fair? I am the one pulling 80-hour weeks." He plays golf with his father-in-law and takes credit for my work. "It is about who you know, Claire." The unspoken comparison hung heavy between us. "You will get the next one," I offered weakly. "Will I?" He glared, his gaze accusatory. "You said that about the Holloway deal too. Don't rush it, Mark. Their financials are over-leveraged. Do your due diligence." He mimicked my voice, a whiny, simpering caricature. Thompson swooped in, closed the deal, and now it is the cornerstone of the quarter. Thanks for the great advice, sweetheart. The memory was a fresh wound. I had seen the red flags in the prospectus he had left out, the unsustainable debt, the fuzzy projections. I had pointed it out, thinking I was helping. He had taken it as a challenge to his manhood. He pushed the deal through out of spite. 2 months later, the headlines screamed about Holloway's collapse. His firm lost a bundle, and somehow it was my fault for being right. That was the pattern. My insight was nagging. My caution was a lack of faith. With every stumble, his contempt grew. I was the mirror reflecting his failures, and he hated the reflection. I was only trying to help, I said, the words feeling like ash. I do not need your help, he snapped. I need a wife who elevates me, not one who plays house while undermining me at every turn. Tears pricked my eyes, but I willed them back. Crying would just be more ammunition. I looked down at my hands that once painted watercolours he praised, now only seeming to disappoint him. His phone buzzed. He snatched it up, his face going pale. A shaky breath escaped him. Mark, what is it? He did not answer for a minute, staring at the screen like a ghost. When he finally spoke, his voice was hollow. The Piper account, he whispered. The one I have been killing myself over for months. He looked up, and the raw, toxic hatred in his eyes made me recoil. They just signed with Thompson. Lacey's father plays golf with Old Man Piper. It was never a competition. It was just a charity handout. He stood up so abruptly his chair screeched. He paced, hands running through his hair. 3 years. 3 years I have been running in place while guys like Thompson get a golden elevator. For what? A wife who thinks a casserole is an anniversary gift and acts like an expert because she reads the financial news? The cruelty was so precise that I could not breathe. This was not the frustrated man I had been making excuses for. This was a stranger who enjoyed hurting me. Mark, stop, I said, my voice gaining strength. This is not about the casserole. This is your own disappointment talking, and it is cruel. We are supposed to be a team. A team? He whirled on me, laughing a broken sound. What do you bring to this team, Claire? A pretty face that is starting to look tired? A trust fund from your parents that bought us this? He gestured wildly around our modest apartment. I am carrying dead weight. That was it. The final veil torn away. I saw the ugly, resentful core of him clearly now. My kindness was weakness. My love was a burden. He needed me beneath him to feel tall. I stood up, my body strangely calm. I want you to leave. He blinked. Stunned, I could form a sentence. What? Get out. Go to a hotel. Go anywhere. I do not want you here tonight. For a second, he looked shocked. Then the sneer returned. You are kicking me out of my own home? Don't be dramatic. Sit down and finish your meal, or leave. I am not asking, Mark. I am telling you. If you do not go, I will call the police and have you removed. Try me. Something in my tone, a steel he had not heard before, gave him pause. He assessed me. The new straightness of my spine, the cold fire in my eyes. The accommodating Claire was gone. He backed down, but with a final, biting attempt to regain the upper hand. Fine, take the win. But honestly, this just proves you are out of your depth. You just throw tantrums when things get real. He grabbed his coat, then paused. A cold, sharp look crossed his face, the look of a man planning to burn everything down. I have a better idea? Dinner? You know it, right? Of course you do not. It is the best French spot in the city. Michelin star level. Where the Dubois family eats. I went cold. Dubois, my mother's maiden name, sounded so alien coming from him. Wear something decent, no flowers, for God's sake. Sit there, eat what you are served, and smile. Do not say a word unless someone asks you something. I want you to see what real status looks like. Maybe this will finally knock some sense into you and teach you your place. He was practically vibrating with excitement. This was his plan, public humiliation to make me submissive. I kept my voice eerily calm, and if I refuse? Then I will know you are just a coward and this marriage is over. Be ready at 7 sharp. He yanked the door open. Try not to embarrass me. The door slammed, leaving a hollow silence. I did not cry. I just started cleaning up the ruined anniversary dinner, scraping the uneaten meal into the trash. It was just food, and a symbol of a love that had already rotted away. I looked at my reflection in the dark window. A cold, clear plan formed. He wanted a lesson? He would get one. I went to the bathroom and started the shower. I pulled out my secondary phone, the sleek, encrypted one my brother gave me for emergencies. Alex always planned for everything. I dialed the number by heart. It rang twice before a warm, familiar voice answered with a thick French accent. "Ma petite sœur, it is late there. My brother Alexander." A real smile finally touched my lips. "Alex," I said, voice steady, "it is time. Dinner at Les Ciels is tomorrow. He thinks he is taking a farm girl to her first big night out." A rich laugh filled the line. "Philippe runs the kitchen now. He will love seeing you. Should I come?" I watched the mirror fog. "Yes," I said, eyes cold. "Make an entrance. Let us teach my husband a lesson. Tomorrow he would see exactly where I belonged. It would ruin him." I stayed awake all night, planning. The pain had hardened into something sharp. For a year I had been shrinking to fit his tiny world. Now I was reclaiming the woman I used to be. My phone buzzed at 7. Ethan. I ignored it. A text appeared. "Be ready at 6:30. Wear the blue dress from the sale, not the floral one." I did not reply. That blue dress, a drab, shapeless thing he called respectable. It hung in my closet like a surrender flag. I walked past it, reaching deep into the back of my wardrobe for a garment bag I had ignored for years. The scent of lavender hit me as I unzipped it. Inside was a simple column of black silk, a gift from Alex for my 25th birthday. Ethan hated it, so I had buried it. I spent the day in calm detachment, printing a copy of my passport under my maiden name, Coraline Elise Dubois, to tuck into my purse. Another buzz from Alex, all set. Table for 3 at 8:15. "Philippe says you have not aged a day. I will arrive at 8:30. Save me some snacks." Then, "Ready, my lioness?" I typed back, "Born ready. See you at the circus." The black silk felt like armor. I kept my hair simple, added deep wine lipstick, and finally felt like myself. At 6:28, the lock clicked. Ethan walked in, scanning for flaws. His smug look snapped into shock. "What are you wearing?" he barked. "A dress," I said, grabbing my clutch. "That is not the one I picked." I met his gaze. "No, it is not." He scowled at the silk, clearly rattled that it did not belong in his carefully curated world. He looked rattled. "Fine," he muttered. "Just act like you belong. The cab is waiting." "Don't talk on the way. I need to prep you." The ride was suffocating. Ethan held a mental note card like a lecture, drilling me on French menu terms and bread buttering etiquette. "Tear them butter," he snapped. I repeated it flatly. "And don't mention wine. I handle that. Just swirl, sniff, and nod. Don't ask for ketchup or steak sauce." I kept my face blank, listening to his frantic instructions while he tried to keep his own panic under control. He was so terrified of looking foolish that he was becoming a caricature of the man he desperately wanted to be. I watched the city lights, thinking of my grandparents' kitchen in France and my life before Ethan. A sharp sadness hit me, not for what was ending, but for the life I had wasted trying to impress him. He never wanted a partner. He wanted a prop, and when I showed a spark of my own, he tried to crush it. "The most important rule," Ethan said, breaking my silence. "Do not speak French. That baby talk is embarrassing. Just speak English. Understood? Baby talk." He meant the phone calls where I laughed with my grandmother. He had reduced my pure joy to something childish. "Understood," I said. He leaned back, satisfied that he had me caged. "Just smile and keep quiet." We pulled up to the venue, nothing but a small brass plaque. The door opened, and a doorman ushered us inside. Ethan puffed his chest, gripping my back in a proprietary move I fought to ignore. The room smelled of starch and old money. The host, Gerald, glided over. "Name? Ethan Moore," he announced too loudly. 8:00 for 2. Gerald checked his list, his smile tight. "Ah, yes, Mr. Moore. This way." He skipped the main room and marched us to a cramped corner by the kitchen. The table for people they wanted to insult. Ethan, oblivious, looked proud. He thought he was playing the big shot, but the staff saw right through him. Ethan pulled out my chair with a flourish, beaming. Gerald dropped menus and bowed away. Ethan scanned the French text, panic flickering in his eyes. He recognized basic words, but was completely lost. Confit. En croûte, he was drowning. I opened mine. It was like reading a story in the foie gras. Just get the chicken, Ethan muttered. It is hard to mess up. Suddenly a server arrived with effortless grace. Philip. I remembered him as a kid chasing his father through our family vineyards. Now he was pure, polished professional. Our eyes met, and a flicker of recognition passed between us before he masked it perfectly. "Good evening," he said, his accent a soft melody. "May I start you with a drink?" "We will have the house red," Ethan snapped. Philippe smiled, though I saw the disappointment. If I may, he offered the better list. "The house red is fine." Ethan cut him off, slamming his menu shut. "We are not trying to impress anyone, right, honey?" He patted my hand like a brand. I gave Philippe a tiny shake of my head. "Very well, monsieur," Philippe said, turning to leave. He paused, looking right at me. "Madame, that is a stunning dress. Yves Saint Laurent, late 80. A smile touched my lips. "Merci, Philippe. Vous avez un œil très exercé. C'est un cadeau de mon frère." "You have a sharp eye, Philippe. It was a gift from my brother." His face lit up with a real unguarded smile. "Il a un goût impeccable, comme toujours." He nodded respectfully and walked away. The silence at our table was deafening. Ethan leaned in, face turning a deep, angry red. "What was that?" he hissed. I sipped my water. "What was what? That babbling? I told you not to speak French." "I was just being polite," I said calmly. "Don't you dare correct me," he snarled. "You think you are clever, but you are still just a girl from a farm who got lucky." I looked at him, finally seeing the bitter, insecure stranger he really was. "You are right, Ethan," I said softly. He leaned back, thinking he had won. I continued, "I am a girl from a farm that has been in my family for 200 years and produces some of the most sought-after grapes in Burgundy. The house red you ordered? That is bulk swill for people who do not know any better." He sat frozen, mouth hanging open. "Your parents run a fruit stand in Napa," he stammered. I almost laughed. "That was the cover story for privacy. They do a bit more than that," I said. Bread arrived then, crusty baguette and rich brioche. Ethan grabbed a piece, buttering it sloppily in his rage. Crumbs fell everywhere. I watched him, then slowly buttered my brioche. It tasted like freedom. The other tables were watching, a few stray glances. Ethan was still fuming. "You are lying," he finally spat out, wiping his mouth. "You made this up to mess with me. It is pathetic." "It is Coraline," I said, voice cold. "Believe what you want. You always do." A waiter arrived with a bottle. Not what Ethan ordered. Philippe brought a vintage red. He set it before me, not Ethan, with the compliments of the house. 2015 from your family estate. We saved a few for a special occasion. Ethan stared at the bottle, then at Philippe. "What is this?" I ordered the house wine. Philippe turned to him, his smile gone. "My apologies, sir." The sommelier decided this pairing suited the lady better. He uncorked it and poured. I swirled the wine. Notes of dark cherry. Perfect. "C'est magnifique." "Philippe, thank the sommelier." "Certainly, madame," he said, then turned to Ethan. "For you, sir." He gestured to the cheap house wine. Ethan stiffened as Philippe poured. The contrast was a joke, my deep ruby against his watery blend. Ethan gulped his down. "It is fine," he grunted, eyes locked on my glass. He saw the reverence in my grip and realized the gap between us. The first course came. Ethan got a basic salad. I was served the foie gras, complete with fig compote. "I did not order that," Ethan barked. "Compliments of the house for madame," Philippe said smoothly. "A small token of our esteem." Ethan was drowning. His script, the one where he was the cultured mentor, was in shreds. I was getting the respect he craved. He ate in hateful silence. I savoured the foie gras. Exquisite. Every bite reminded me of the life I once knew. I loved it. But I loved watching his confusion more. The restaurant vibe shifted. A new tension. The kitchen doors swung open. Gerald, the manager, looked frazzled. Ethan leaned in, trying to regain control. "Look, stop this game. You are embarrassing us. Eat your chicken and drop the French act. This is my world. You are just a guest." I looked past him. A man had walked in, tall, confident, commanding. He wore a suit worth more than Ethan Escar, like it was his own skin. He laughed with Gerald, then scanned the room, his eyes locked onto mine. A brilliant smile lit up his face as he walked toward us. Heads turned to watch him. Ethan noticed me shift. He turned, following my gaze. His face went pale. His fork clattered against the plate. "No!" he whispered, panicked. "That is impossible! Alexander Dubois, the CEO of Dubois Holdings, the billionaire Ethan had obsessed over for years, reached our table. He ignored the man gaping at him. He placed a hand on my shoulder and kissed my cheek. "Hello, little sister," Alex said, his voice warm. "Sorry I am late. The jet had trouble over the Atlantic." He sat down, glaring at my husband. His smile stayed, but his eyes turned cold. "You must be Ethan," Alex said, reaching out a hand. "I have heard so much about you." Our table felt like the center of the world. The chatter faded. Alex's hand hovered, a trap disguised as a greeting. Ethan stared at it like a snake. His jaw tightened. His eyes, wide with terror, darted between Alex and me. I saw him calculating, his world falling apart. The Dubois name, the legendary heir, the deal his firm had chased for months. My brother, Mr. Dubois? Ethan finally choked out. He wiped his hand and shook Alex's too hard. "Sir, this is an honor. I had no idea. Cora, you never said." He was rambling, a desperate mess. Alex pulled his hand away, smile fixed, eyes frozen. "Please, call me Alex. And I hear you prefer Cora." He said it like it was something gross. "I have always called her Coraline. It is a family name. It suits her, right?" Ethan nodded, looking like he had been punched. Philippe arrived with a glass for Alex, who thanked him without looking away from Ethan. "So," Alex said, taking a sip, 2015. "Excellent choice. One of our best. You can taste the limestone, the struggle of those vines. It gives it soul." He spoke as if Ethan were invisible. "Papa worried about the frost, but the grapes fought for it. Better that way, don't you think?" "Much better," I said, my voice steady. I met my brother's gaze, a silent signal. The game had begun. Ethan watched the intimacy, the language he could never touch. He found his voice, high and thin. "Sir Alex, I am so sorry. I am stunned." Coraline never mentioned her maiden name. "Dubois, of course. The Dubois vineyards. I just never made the connection." He tried to laugh, but it sounded like a dry cough. "She is so modest, right?" Alex agreed, voice smooth. "A Dubois through and through." We were taught that bragging is a sign of emptiness. It seems she learned well. He let that sting. "Tell me, Ethan, how is the wine? Better than your house red, I bet." Ethan gulped his, wincing. "It is very good, robust. It is garbage," Alex said cheerfully. "How would you know?" He leaned in. "So, you are at Kensington Low? In mergers. How is that going?" This was the moment Ethan had prayed for, a link to the billionaire whose firm was a giant in finance. His corporate mask tried to surface. "It is a tremendous firm. We are growing. Actually, sir, we have been eager to speak with Dubois Holdings about your assets. The synergy is huge. I have a prospectus." Alex cut him off, voice flat. "The one you sent my assistant? 6 times? And then, strangely, to my personal email. And even my father's office?" Ethan turned ghost white. "I was just trying to be thorough. The right desk was the one you came home to," Alex said, voice dangerous. "My sister, who you told a rival firm had the business sense of a potted plant, it is fine. She is decorative." The air vanished. I had not known about that email. I saw the memory of writing it flicker in Ethan's eyes, followed by pure, unadulterated panic. He was busted. "That is out of context," he stammered. "A private joke. A joke you hoped would land you a job at Sterling Financial," Alex noted, cold as ice. "He offered them insights gained from pillow talk with a wife you called simple." He sipped his wine. "My security team is top tier, Ethan. They flag everything." Ethan shook, his collar suddenly too tight. He looked at me, pleading. "Coraline, honey, you have to believe me." "I do believe you, Ethan," I said, my voice eerily calm. "I believe that is exactly what you think of me. I have heard the potted plant line before. Usually I am just a country girl." I tilted my head. "Funny, because the country I am from produces wine that heads of state drink. The simple life you mocked paid for my Sorbonne degree. The chatty wife you tried to silence speaks 4 languages fluently. Each word was a surgical strike." I watched the truth sink in. "You went to the Sorbonne," he whispered. "Art history and business," Alex added, clearly enjoying himself. "Graduated with honours, but she kept it off her resume for your benefit." "Right, Coraline? You wanted a normal life." He said it with pity, which felt worse than hate. The main courses arrived. Philippe set the steak before Ethan, who ignored it. He set the chicken in front of me. My appetite vanished, replaced by cold focus. Why? Ethan croaked, his eyes hollow. Why hide all of this? Was it a game? Testing me? I almost felt sorry for him. Almost. His mind could only see a trick, because the idea that someone would downplay power for love was impossible to him. It was not a game, Ethan, I said, pushing my plate away. It was a choice. I loved the man who loved me, not my status or my bank account. I thought you were him. I was wrong. I stopped being me the moment I became an accessory to your ego. He shook his head, refusing it. You lied for years. I omitted. I corrected. You dismissed. There is a difference. You mocked my heritage. You called my family simple farmers. You wanted a trophy wife to make you feel like a giant. When I proved to be an educated woman, you tried to break me. You didn't want a partner. You wanted a mirror, and you hated the truth that finally stared back. The restaurant went dead silent. Waiters froze. Even the manager watched, his face unreadable but his eyes wide with intensity. Ethan's shame shifted into desperate, feral rage. He pointed wildly at Alex and me. This public scene is your revenge? You dragged me here, humiliated me, and brought in your rich brother to finish it? You spoiled brat! You ruined my life just because I didn't worship you. Alex moved before I could blink. He didn't rise, but his hand shot out, clamping onto Ethan's wrist. The iron grip silenced him. Alex's voice dropped, cold and lethal. Lower your voice. You are a guest in a place of respect. You are speaking to my sister. The only reason you aren't choking on your own teeth is because she asked for civility. My patience is gone. Ethan went limp, his knife clattering to the plate. Alex released him, wiping his hands on a napkin as if he had touched something filthy. Revenge, I asked, my voice ice. This is a consequence. This is you finally getting exactly what you asked for. I spoke in rapid French, clear and sharp. Philippe, the food looks lovely, but my appetite is gone. Please pack it to go and bring me the check and a pen. Certainly, Madame Dubois. He bowed. I continued in English for maximum impact. And Philippe, send a bottle of the 2005 Romanée Conti to table 6. They are celebrating an anniversary, and it is my treat, a gift from my family estate. Table 6 was a couple in their 60s, beaming. The wife gasped, clutching her heart, as her husband toasted me in thanks. That single bottle cost more than Ethan's yearly bonus. It was a breathtaking show of status. Ethan looked like he had been physically struck. He knew the wine's legendary status. He had only read about it in dreams, and I had just given it away like water. You, he breathed, you can't. It is my estate, I said softly. Well, mine and Alex's, I can. The check arrived. I didn't glance at the total. I reached into my bag, pulling out a printed paper. I signed it with a flourish. Coraline Elise Dubois. I slid it to Ethan. It wasn't a check. It was a scan of my passport. Beaune, France. The farm girl from Napa? She never existed. You fell in love with a ghost, and you have been resenting a phantom for years. Alex placed a hand on my shoulder. Ready, my dear? I nodded. I looked at my husband of 3 years, sitting among the wreckage of his ego and our marriage. I felt no triumph, only a hollow relief. The divorce papers will reach your office tomorrow, I said. Do not return to the apartment. Your things are in storage. The access code is your mother's birthday. A final courtesy. I turned and walked away. Please, you can't. I love you. I paused. Alex gripped my shoulder. I didn't turn back. No, Ethan. You loved the idea of a woman you could look down on. That woman is gone. I walked out into the cool Chicago air, taking a deep, free breath. The restaurant remained stunned behind us. I didn't need to look back. I could feel his desperate gaze and the weight of everyone's attention pressing against my spine. My heart drummed a steady, powerful beat. This was the autopsy of my marriage, and I was the one holding the blade. We were near the exit when the spell broke. Wait, please! Ethan's voice was a raw, panicked shout. Chairs scraped. I heard the manager murmur, Sir, please, but Ethan stumbled after us, napkin still in hand. Alex stopped, a protective anchor on my arm, and turned with the grace of a king. I turned with him, expressionless. All eyes were on us. Ethan skidded to a halt, chest heaving. Coraline, he gasped, ignoring Alex. You can't just leave. This is insane. It is a misunderstanding, I repeated, my voice steady in the quiet room. Which part, Ethan? The year of belittling me? Or the part where you tried to sell my family's private data for a promotion?" The room gasped. Ethan flinched. "I didn't that email, Alex. You have to understand the context." He babbled, turning to my brother. "It was just industry talk. Bragging. I never actually. You offered Sterling Financial a unique inside track to Dubois Holdings." Alex cut in, his voice like a razor. "You wrote, and I quote, 'My wife is a Dubois. She is too simple to understand business, but she chatters.' I can get you insights. You listed 3 of our confidential negotiations in Asia, details only discussed in our private boardroom. How did my simple sister get those, Ethan?" Ethan turned white. He looked at me, and the realization hit him. The nights he came home ranting about work, I had listened, I had made tea, I had asked probing questions the same way I would assess a vintage wine. Who is the competition? What is the hurdle? He had dismissed my insights as naive, then stolen them to impress his bosses. And in his arrogance he thought I was too stupid to notice he was stealing them. "You set me up," he whispered. "I protected my family," I replied, my tone glacial. "When I realized what you were doing, I started recording our talks. One-party consent, Ethan. Perfectly legal. I have hours of you insulting me and leaking confidential information. I sent the files to Alexander months ago." "Months?" He croaked the word in terror. Alex smiled, a sharp predator grin. "We watched you for months, Ethan, waiting to see your next move. You had a knack for ruining everything. My sister gave you loyalty and access to a world you never earned, and you treated her like dirt beneath your pathetic, expensive shoes." Ethan swayed. The reality of his failure hit him hard. This wasn't just a divorce, it was professional death. His attempts at corporate espionage, sloppy and weak, were career poison. The fact that the intel was actually his wife's bait made it twice as humiliating. "You have zero proof," Ethan stammered. "It is her word against mine. Just a scorned wife spinning tales." Alex sighed, clearly bored. He reached into his suit jacket and pulled out a slim digital recorder. He set it on the podium and hit play. Ethan's own voice, tinny but clear, filled the room. "Useless, completely useless. I presented that strategy today, and they loved it. Loved it. Thompson looked like he had been poisoned. For once, I was the smartest guy in the room. And you know why? It was your dumb questions that started it. Like a monkey on a typewriter, you stumble onto something useful eventually, I guess." My recorded voice, calm and gentle. "I am glad it helped, Ethan. But are you sure about the joint venture structure?" His voice dripped with contempt. "Oh, save it! You read one article and think you are a business gurus? Stick to making coffee." Alex stopped the recording. The silence was absolute. Everyone in the restaurant stared at Ethan, who looked physically sick. "There are dozens more," Alex said, slipping the recorder away. "Some are just sad. Others, like the time you leaked confidential land deal figures after I told you they were private, are legally actionable. My lawyers are very interested." Ethan's bravado shattered. He didn't just crumble, he broke. "What do you want?" he begged, his voice cracking. "Money? I have nothing. Please, Coraline. 3 years. We had good times. Remember Maine? The lighthouse? You said you were happy." He was picking through our wreckage, hunting for one scrap of grace. That memory, a simple, happy weekend, was a precise, painful jab. But the pain didn't own me anymore. It was just a scar. "I was happy," I said, my voice heavy with sorrow. "I loved the man I thought you were." "You killed him, Ethan. You drowned him in spite." "The man standing here? I do not know him, and I do not want to." I pulled a second legal envelope from my clutch and held it out. He stared at it like a live grenade. "This is a divorce filing," I said. "My attorney has it. You will be served formally tomorrow at Kensington Low. Be there. Making a scene at work would be a mistake." The threat hung in the air, cold and final. "Take the divorce quietly, or I will ensure the city knows exactly who you are." His hands shook as he took the papers. "As for what we want," Alex added, "we want you gone. The apartment is in my trust. You leave tonight. Your things will be moved to storage. The code is your mother's birthday sentimental, but we will honor it." Alex stepped closer, his authority making Ethan shrink. "You will sign these papers granting full dissolution and a restraining order. No contesting, no contact. You will resign from Kensington Low by Friday." "Resign?" Ethan squeaked. But my career, I have nothing without it. You should have thought of that before you tried to sell my family's secrets and spent years tearing my sister apart, Alex said in a lethal whisper. Resign quietly, and we will not pursue you for corporate espionage. We will not leak these recordings. You will be a nobody who faded away, not a headline. That is our mercy. It was a deal with the devil. Quit and be penniless, or fight and have your name destroyed forever. Tears welled in Ethan's eyes, tears of self-pity. He looked at me, desperate. Coraline, please. I am sorry. I was stressed. I was an idiot. I love you. We can fix this. Counseling? Anything. For a second I saw the ghost of the man I had fallen for, but that was all. He was an echo. The man before me had made his choices. I loved you once, Ethan, I said, voice steady. You used that love as a weapon. There is no saving this marriage. I left. Alex steered me out, and the manager gave a silent, respectful nod. Ethan begged behind us, a pathetic hollow sound. We ignored it, pushing through into the crisp Chicago night. A town car sat waiting. Once inside, the leather felt cold. Alex shut us in, and we sat in silence as I finally put my old life in the rearview mirror. The adrenaline crashed, leaving me exhausted. You were magnificent, Alex whispered, his accent heavy. A single hot tear tracked down my cheek. Then another. I didn't sob. It was just the release of 3 years of lies. He never loved me, I whispered. Not really. Alex was quiet for a moment. He loved owning a trophy wife. When you turned out to be brilliant, it broke his fragile ego. He couldn't own you, so he tried to break you. A small man's only move. I leaned my head against the cold glass. I feel empty. Good, Alex said. That gives you room to fill up with the right things. Where to? The penthouse, he said. It is yours. They will be here next week. For now, it is just us. I have a vintage wine and ice cream waiting. The comfort broke my tension. You planned all of this? He shrugged. I just built the stage. You performed the masterpiece. Philippe was thrilled to see you. I replayed Philippe's icy politeness. The wine was the perfect sting, a reminder of what Ethan had tossed away. Alex looked grim. My attorney is coming at 10. He gets served at noon. His things will be gone by morning. I called Martin Kensington during dinner, a long-time friend. He was appalled by his employee's conduct. Ethan's resignation will be processed before he even tries to quit. Access already cut. We pulled up to the tower. As we walked through the lobby, I felt the staff watching. They saw a Du Bois and his sister. Untouchable, I kept my head high. The country girl was dead. Coraline Du Bois was finally home. The elevator rose, and for the first time, I tasted real freedom. I slept for 10 hours in luxury. Sunlight hit the floor when I woke. Then it hit the restaurant, the recording, the divorce. A wave of relief washed over me, then panic. The world would know by today. My main phone was a dead brick. My encrypted device had pings. Coffee in the kitchen. Samantha arrives at 10. Be kind to yourself. And one from my old home line. Ethan had called 12 times. I deleted them all. The kitchen was perfect. I poured coffee and looked out at Lake Michigan. I answered, How are you? Like I was hit by a truck, but I'm standing. Good. The footage from last night is out. I tensed. What footage? The audio. Him calling you a monkey at a typewriter. It is viral. Chicago finance blogs are everywhere. The hashtag typewritergate is trending. My stomach turned. This wasn't what I wanted. I know, Alex said. A junior editor caught it. His name and the Du Bois connection. It's a feast for the gossips. Is it bad? For him? It is catastrophic. People call it a lesson in class. For you, the tone is different. Coraline Du Bois is a silent queen. Revenge is living well. There is already a fan account with 10,000 followers. I buried my face in my hands. A fan account? My misery was public entertainment. Samantha will handle the PR, but stay silent. Let the story burn. I opened the laptop. The article was savage. Comments were a torrent of mockery. They photoshopped his face onto a wine bottle. A shameful part of me loved it. I shut the laptop. At 10, the intercom buzzed. Samantha Reed appeared, eyes like winter and a grip of steel. She carried a leather portfolio. Coraline, she said, brisk but kind. I have seen the news. Let's talk damage. She laid out files. Kensington will escort him out immediately. The judge will grant a restraining order instantly, given the Du Bois name and the evidence. He cannot come within 500 feet of you. No contact. She slid over the settlement. It is simple. You keep everything you brought in. He gets his personal stuff and the $4 in his bank account. He assumes all marital debt. And the non-disclosure agreement? I asked. She tapped a file. We aren't pursuing criminal charges for his attempted leaks. He signs this and never speaks of you again. Any breach means immediate lawsuits and the release of all recordings. It is airtight. Will he sign? Samantha smiled coldly. He has no choice, the intercom buzzed. It is Ethan. Should I call security? Samantha and I locked eyes. She spoke into the intercom. This is her attorney. You will not let him up. Call the police if he stays. I sat with my cold coffee. He was here. He will try to contact you, Samantha warned. Burner phones, emails. Be a black hole. Let his words vanish. Don't respond. Minutes later, my old phone lit up. Texts. Sarah, please. Miller fired me. Everyone saw it. My phone is blowing up. Where are you? The keys do not work. Your brother is packing my bags. I am sorry. I am so sorry. You win. Fine. Just tell me what to do. Stop ignoring me. This is your fault. Your stuck-up family set me up. The texts kept coming, spiraling from begging to rage. I watched the screen, a real-time autopsy of a man losing his mind. I screenshotted the last threat and sent it to Sarah. Then I blocked him. Good, she said, checking her phone. The first violation. That helps our restraining order. She looked at me, assessing. This is the hard part, sitting in the wreckage, without cleaning it up. He will get worse before he vanishes. And he got worse fast. That night, as I sat alone with my soup, the intercom buzzed. It was building security. Miss Vane, sorry to bother you. Mr. Hayes is in the alley. He snuck past the loading dock. He is demanding to see you. He says he will not leave until you talk. We have him contained. Police are on the way. Cold fear hit me, then hot anger. He was invading my new fragile peace. Sarah S. voice echoed, Be a black hole. I am not coming down. Call the police, Dave. Get him out. If he resists, press every charge. I checked the service entrance feed on my tablet. There he was, Mark. Tie messy, hair a total wreck. He was squaring off with 2 guards, shouting. He looked small. Diminished, like a faded photo. The high-flying hedge fund manager was gone, just a guy realizing his status had vanished. I watched, chest tight, as the police pulled up. 2 officers approached. Mark was frantic. Pointing toward my balcony, the cops shook their heads. One grabbed his arm and Mark fought it. Pathetic. They marched him to the cruiser. Not in cuffs, but definitely not free. The next morning, my lawyer, Elena, called. He signed. The settlement, the papers. He had a public defender at the station who saw our mountain of evidence and told him to sign everything if he wanted any future career. It is finally over. The silence after the storm was heavy. Restraining order granted. Divorce is final in 2 months, but we are legally separated now. He is gone. Elena, I should have felt pure relief, but I just felt empty. The war was over, and I was standing in the ruins. There is one more thing, Elena said, her voice cautious. He is requesting a final meeting through his lawyer. Not to change the deal. He says he needs closure. I advise against it. There is nothing to gain. I knew she was right, but a ghost of my past whispered a dangerous idea. Maybe I need closure too, to say what I kept inside at that dinner, to see him not as a monster but as a broken man and say goodbye. Make it happen, I told her, but keep it public with you and security close. Coraline, please. Elena, I need this. We met in a quiet conference room at her office 2 days later. Mark was there with an exhausted public defender. He looked ruined. Aged 5 years in 3 days, suit rumpled, eyes bloodshot. When I walked in, he flinched. The lawyers set the rules. This was a discussion only. No deals would change. Any harassment, and it is over. We sat there, staring at each other across the mahogany table. You look well, he said, his voice raspy. Thank you. A long silence followed. He toyed with a paperclip. I am at a cheap motel near the airport. My stuff is in storage locker 417. The code is my Mom 's birthday. You remembered? I did! Why? He asked, suddenly desperate. Why the charity after everything? Because being cruel is not who I am, I said. Even to you. He nodded, swallowing hard. The video is everywhere. I cannot find work. Not in finance. My friends have ghosted me. My mother says I shamed the family. He gave a broken laugh. As if we had any reputation left to save. I said nothing. No absolution. I loved you, you know, he said, eyes shining. In my own way, I was just so angry all the time. At the partners, at the guys who had it easier. I took it out on you. It was not fair. No, I agreed. It wasn't. I am sorry. The words were raw. They sounded almost real, for all of it. For the insults, for not really seeing you, for being a coward. I believed he was sorry. Sorry he got caught. Sorry he lost his lifestyle. Sorry his world collapsed. But was he sorry for the cruelty? I doubted it. I have something for you, I said. I slid a manila folder across the table. He opened it carefully. Not a legal document, just a list. 24 lines with dates and direct quotes. June 14th, 2024. Don't try to understand the market report. It is not like balancing a checkbook for a grocery store. August 3rd, 2024. That dress makes you look like you are heading to a church picnic. Do you own anything not in gingham? October 22nd, 2024. Just be quiet and look pretty. It is what you are good at. January 15th, 2025. My boss's wife has real opinions. You just have moods. On and on. 24 instances of contempt over the last 14 months. I pulled them from the recordings, a ledger of our marriage's failure. His face went white. His hands shook. What is this? That is the why, Mark. My voice stayed steady. That is what you did. That is who you became. I did not leave because you failed. I left because you were cruel. I stayed because I loved you. You exploited that because you were weak. Love should never feel like a prison. He stared at the list, jaw slack. Hearing whispers in a cafe was one thing. Seeing his cruelty in cold, chronological order was another. I did not realize, he stammered. You didn't want to, I corrected. You needed me small so you could feel tall. A real partner lifts you up. They do not stand on you. He had no answer. His lawyer wouldn't look at us. I loved the man you were, I said, rising. My goodbye. I pity the man you are now. I hope you change, but it is not my problem. We are done. I wish you no harm, but I wish you nothing. I turned to the door. Sarah followed. Coraline, he called out. His voice was raw. I kept walking. Who are you? He asked, echoing the cafe. But the rage was gone, just hollow space left. I glanced back at the wreck in his cheap suit and gave him a sad, small smile. I am the woman you married, Ethan. You just never bothered to look. I walked out, leaving him with his wreckage and the truth of why it all collapsed. The void inside me wasn't so empty anymore. It was filling up with a quiet, steady light. My lesson was finished. My real life was finally starting. 3 months later, the air in Napa Valley held a new kind of warmth. Not that heavy Chicago humidity, but a crisp, golden glow that smelled of sun-baked earth, vines, and wild rosemary. It felt like coming home. I stood on a stone terrace overlooking the sloping vineyards of my new life. A tiny microphone was tucked into my hair. Below, 100 industry titans mingled, critics, buyers, press, all hooked on my comeback. Our brand Valor was finally live. I wore a simple linen dress, skin sun-kissed, hair loose. I felt like me. Not a wife, not a victim. A vintner. A reporter leaned in. Miss Thorne, the Valor label is a bold change for a house known for classic reds. What inspired it? I smiled. It is about feminine strength, complexity mistaken for fragility. The lioness is the hunter and the heart of the pride. This wine, I gestured to the glass, is a blend. Grenache for fire, Syrah for spice, anchored by our oldest Pinot Noir, power with grace. She pressed about the comeback narrative. I kept my gaze steady. The wine speaks for itself. My private life is private. I am here for the future, not the past. She nodded, scribbling notes. I had mastered the art of facing the scandal without letting it crush me. The rumours had faded, replaced by intrigue over the heiress reclaiming her throne. I used that buzz to drive interest, then shifted to the product. My PR coach had been brutal. Across the terrace, I saw Marcus chatting with a Tokyo buyer. He gave me a thumbs up. My rock, a new intern, Chloe, passed by with trays. She was shy, but she could identify rare grapes just by touch. She had been terrified an hour ago, but I taught her to let the craft speak. She was thriving now. My phone buzzed. I stepped away toward the vines, a text from an unknown Chicago number. Coraline, I am using a friend's phone. I saw the news. You look happy, like you belong. I am in Phoenix now, selling industrial cooling units. It is a job. The divorce is final. I will not bother you again. I am sorry for everything, not because I lost, but because you deserved better. Be happy, E. I stared at the screen. No demands, no pity, just accountability. It was the first honest thing he had ever said. I blocked the number. Closure is not a conversation. It is a quiet click in your own heart. Alex appeared beside me with water. Thinking? I pocketed the phone. It is a brilliant day. Pre-orders are at 200% of our goal. They buy the story, but the wine brings them back. That was the plan. Transcend the noise. It is time, Alex said, eyes bright. You ready? I took a deep breath, the scent of the vineyard filling my lungs. Ready. We walked to the podium. Alex tapped the mic and the crowd went silent. Cameras flashed. Friends, thank you for celebrating this new chapter for Thorn Estates. Alex spoke with authority. For generations, our family has known that great wine is more than a drink. It is a story of a place and the people behind it. Today, we add a new voice. He turned to me, pride in his eyes. Many of you followed my sister's recent journey. You saw her resilience. What you may not know is that Coraline has been our secret weapon for years. Her palate is elite. Her vision for the narrative behind this brand inspired the Valor label. She is not just coming home, she is claiming her birthright. He paused. Effective immediately, I am thrilled to announce that Coraline Thorn is the new co-chief executive officer, focused on brand strategy and our new hospitality ventures. Applause erupted. This was no sympathy play. They knew the business. They saw the strategy. Alex handed me the mic. I looked at the crowd, seeing partners in a future I was finally ready to build. Thank you, Alex, and thank you all. I began, my voice steady. Thorn Estates has always been about roots and wings, the history of this land and the heights of creativity. My vision is to bridge fine wine with the art world, to tell stories as complex on canvas as they are in the glass. I outlined our first project, a collaboration with a sculptor for limited bottles, a ballet-inspired tasting series, and an artist-in-residence program right here. It was bold. I saw the spark in the critics' eyes. As I finished, I spotted Chloe in the back, holding an empty tray with genuine awe. I saw a flicker of my younger self in her, capable but unsure of her place. Ethan's voice hissed in my memory. Just a country girl. I looked at Chloe and saw a foundation, not a limitation. Her hard work was her strength. The party flowed. I was in my element, discussing tannins and structure. As the sun dipped, painting the sky in violet, I found a quiet spot by the old oak. My phone buzzed. A message from Lacey Thompson, the wife of Ethan's former boss, the woman he once held up as the perfect socialite. Coraline, I hope it is okay to message you. Congratulations on today. I have followed the coverage. What you are building is incredible. I also need to apologize. A year ago, Ethan was at lunch and made cruel remarks about you. Your clothes, your tastes, I laughed along. I thought it was just spousal teasing. I did not know. I am so sorry I stayed silent. What you did, walking away, it is inspiring. Best wishes, Lacey. I read it twice. The apology meant something. It acknowledged the silent complicity that let Ethan's behavior fester. I typed back quickly. Lacey, thank you. No apology needed. We all navigate these things as best we can. I am grateful to be on the other side. Let us have coffee when you are in the valley. I would love to hear about your foundation work. Best, Coraline. It was a bridge. Society is small. Kindness is a currency that never loses value. As twilight fell, the guests left. I slipped off my heels and walked barefoot onto the cool, damp earth of the vineyard. Dirt between my toes. This was my real office now. My phone buzzed. A text from Julian, an accountant whose grammar I once fixed at a party ages ago. Clara, saw the news. You are a legend. I know this is random, but after you left, I got a $15,000 check. My mother's surgery. I know it was you. The nursing home told me it was the Vance Family Trust. I was too proud to ask then, and everything went south with my husband. Thank you. You saved her life. I owe you everything. I offered a quiet, genuine smile. I had almost forgotten. It was 2 years ago. Julian had mentioned his mom needed a procedure that insurance wouldn't cover. I caught the panic in his voice and called my trust manager the next morning. It was pocket change for the fund, but it was everything to him. I made them keep it quiet. It was about helping someone in pain. I typed back, Julian? So glad she is okay. You owe me nothing. Just buy a bottle of my reserve when it launches. Take care. His reply hit instantly. A whole case. And Clara, kindness suits you better than any of us. I tucked the phone away and watched the stars appear in the violet sky. My past felt like a distant place I barely visited anymore. My life was here now in these vines. A soft voice interrupted. Miss Vance? I turned. It was Maya holding my shoes. You left these. Thanks, Maya, and please just call me Clara. I took them. You did a great job today. Really? She blushed, staring at the dirt. Thanks. It was wild, so many high-profile guests. They are just people, I said gently. Most are just better at hiding their stress. Your notes on the soil in Sector 7 impressed the foreman. He said that matters more than impressing a food critic. She looked up, eyes bright. Really? Truly? This is your world too, Maya. Never let anyone make you feel like an outsider where you belong. The advice felt like a vow to her and my younger self. She stood taller. I won't, thanks, Clara. As she headed toward the winery, her phone rang. She answered, her voice shy but steady. Yes, Mum, it was beautiful. Her French was a bit shaky, but it was brave. It was her claiming her own space. I stood in the dark vineyard, the owner of a legacy I finally accepted, listening to another woman find her strength. The lioness was home, and her power wasn't a roar of anger, but the steady growth of vines under a vast sky. The future finally tasted sweet.